Well, thank you, Gary. A little embellished introduction there, but that's fine. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with leaders, entrepreneurs, and change makers who know that thriving in today's world takes more than just talent. It takes grit, clarity, connection, and attitude. Today I want to share with you 4 powerful keys that will help you not just survive, but to thrive in life and leadership. Resilience, vision, networking, and attitude. These 4 keys will determine not just how high you rise, but whether you rise at all. Let's unlock them one by one. Resilience. Resilience is the strength that allows us to get back up after life knocks us down. It's not about avoiding pain or failure. It's about learning to bend without breaking. Every successful person you admire has faced rejection, loss, or failure. The difference? They didn't stop there. Thomas Edison failed over 1,000 times before creating the light bulb. Asked about it, he said, quote, "I didn't fail 1,000 times. The light bulb was an invention with 1,000 steps." That's resilience. It's built through mindset. In business, in leadership, in life, challenges are inevitable. But how you respond to them determines your legacy. So the next time you face adversity, remember, resilience turns pressure into performance, pain into power. It's the foundation on which every success is built. Second key is vision. Vision gives direction to your resilience. Without vision, even hard work can lead to nowhere. But with a clear vision, your decisions gain meaning, your sacrifices gain purpose, and work gains momentum. Steve Jobs didn't just see computers. He saw a tool that could change the world. Oprah didn't just see a TV show. She saw a platform to empower millions. Visionary leaders don't react to the present. They create the future. Your vision answers 3 questions. 1, where am I going? 2, why does it matter? And 3, who am I becoming in this process? If you don't have clarity in your vision, take time to write it down. When you can't see it, you can build it. No one thrives alone. I'm talking about networking now. Networking is not about collecting business cards. It's about collecting relationships. The right people don't just open doors. They build new doors with you. Networking isn't about who you know. It's about who knows you, respects you, and trusts you. Surround yourself with people who challenge you, not just cheer for you. People who make you better, not just comfortable. Because together we grow faster, we dream bigger, and we achieve more. Now we come to the 4th and most important step of all. And to me, it's the most powerful word in the English language. Attitude. Your attitude is the lens through which you see the world. It colors every decision, every relationship, every outcome. 2 people can face the same situation. One sees defeat, the other sees opportunity. The difference? Attitude. Philosopher William James said it best when he stated, quote, "The greatest discovery of any generation is that a human being can alter their life by altering their attitude. Human beings, by changing the inner attitudes of their minds, can change the outer aspects of their lives. End of quote. A positive attitude attracts possibilities. A negative one repels them. And here's the best part. Attitude is a choice. You can control everything that happens to you, but you can always control how you respond. So choose optimism, choose courage, choose excellence. Because attitude is the spark that ignites every other key: resilience, vision, and networking. How many of you failed in your career? We all have. We likely all have it some way at some time, but probably not as much as I have in my professional career. Failure is never an individual's planned process. Let me share with you my real stories and why I believe in my premise. First, I want to share with you the reality from my youth. I was 2 years old when I lost my father. He was walking across the street and a drunk driver hit him and killed him. In addition, I suffered from severe migraine headaches and at times even hallucinated. The most challenging part of my youth was my eczema. It got so severe that body fluids crusted up from my scratching, the intense itching. It included my neck, my wrists, my elbows, and the back of my knees. Eventually, around the age of 13, my mother took me to a specialist, and over 4 visits, he injected 200 different chemistries into my arm to find out what I was allergic to. The results showed I was allergic to chocolate and farm dust. It was tough not being allowed to eat chocolate, but the farm dust was much more severe. I was born and raised on a farm, and I still had at least 6 more years before I could move off the farm. To survive and to get my mind into a more positive state at a very early age, I got interested in sports, particularly basketball and baseball. I practiced basketball late in the evenings in our empty barn haymow, and I would practice baseball by pitching a rubber ball at a chalked strike zone I drew on our shed door and would field the bouncing ball coming back to me. And years later, in grade school, high school, and college, I thrived in sports. At the time, I didn't know the word resilience, but I learned at an early age how to thrive from failures. Let's go fast forward to my professional career and share with you how resilience, along with attitude, helped me thrive from failure. I graduated from college with a degree in chemistry and worked in the chemical industry for 10 years. My last position was working for the #1 industrialist in the history of Great Britain. Max Andre Schackerman owned industrial mines all over the world and purchased the Vermont Marble Company. I accepted the job offer to help him sell his limestone products in the United States because the Vermont plant, he invested $25 million to automate the process of grinding the limestone to a specific particle size. As a paint chemist, this was my specialty. I set up an office in Chicago and immediately made successful sales presentations to companies like Sherwin-Williams, Dow Chemical, Goodyear Tire, Firestone Tire, Bridgestone Tire, Ford, Chrysler, and General Motors. But the feedback I received from these companies showed they were not getting the positive results that I projected they would. I eventually found out that the automatic plant in Vermont could not achieve the goal as stated in the specification sheet I was giving to prospective buyers. As soon as I learned this, I gave my notice to leave, as it was now an ethical situation. And I lost confidence in the executive team. To start, I immediately formed a new vision and decided to move to California, at the time the land of opportunity. I demonstrated my resilience. My goals were to master sales, learn the concept of franchising, and start my own company. I achieved the first two. To start, I joined a direct mail advertising company called Valpak as an independent contractor and sold advertising to mainly small business throughout the Los Angeles area by simply cold calling businesses. I attended sales and motivational seminars so I could become more productive in sales. After 2 years, I learned I was the #1 salesperson in the country out of 325. This was my signal that I mastered sales and it was time to move on. Soon after, I accepted a job offer to join Gibraltar Transmissions, based in Long Island, New York. I started doing franchise sales out of the San Diego office, and after much success, I was transferred to New York. Now, in those days, moving from sleepy town San Diego to the fastest business environment on earth, New York, turned out to be a real challenge. I was too slow in getting to my sales pitch, as New Yorkers were very impatient and selfish with their time. In an attempt to solve this problem, I ended up taking a class in evenings in Manhattan called Acting for Non-Actors. There were 6 of us in the class. The other 5 were actors, just fine-tuning their craft. I was a non-actor. The turning point to me was a skit we performed from The Odd Couple, where I had to shout my lines out. After finishing the scene, our teacher took me aside and showed me a replay and how I completely dominated the scene, so much so that my fellow actor had a hard time getting his lines out. He said that this is what the great actors do, like Jack Nicholson and Meryl Streep. I walked out of that class extremely confident and sang the song from Frank Sinatra, New York, New York. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. After that, I had no problem talking to anyone in the New York area, including Manhattan. This is an example of being resilient when a problem comes up and you find a solution and do it with confidence. Eventually, I moved back to California. And one day I was approached by a lady who owned an executive search company for franchise executives. Somehow she heard about my sales success. We had a good meeting, and a few months later she called me to say she was awarded the opportunity to submit candidates for the position of National Director of Franchise Sales for Baskin-Robbins USA. She requested my permission to submit my resume for the position. I approved, and she then said that while I have no food service background, she believed in me. But I would be competing with candidates from Burger King and Taco Bell. I had learned to overcome any doubts or fears to gain personal confidence, so my confident response was, no problem. I ended up getting the position, and after 2 years, my sales team of 8 broke all past franchise sales records for the company. Then I was approached by the same executive search lady about a franchise executive position with PepsiCo, and specifically one of their casual restaurant concepts called California Pizza Kitchen, or CPK. I interviewed and got the job with the goal to double the existing 80 restaurants to 160, and then the company to do an initial public offering, or simply known as an IPO. All the senior executives would then receive a nice bonus check when the company went public. I went to work and succeeded in selling country development agreements for the Philippines, Indonesia, and Malaysia. It resulted in over $1 million in upfront fees. In addition, I negotiated an agreement with Host Marriott for them to open up a minimum of 31 California Pizza Kitchen ASAP concepts in airport locations throughout the country. Finally, I negotiated area development agreements ready to be fully executed with top restaurant operators for 7 major metropolitan areas in the country. The net present value of these deals, when executed, was $77 million. Then suddenly, new owners bought the company and decided to change the growth strategy by not franchising, but having company-owned restaurants. As a result, I was relieved of my duties and received a small severance check relative to the check my former senior executives received when the company went public. I immediately started to network and form a new vision. I demonstrated resiliency along with a positive attitude. During the same time, I served on the board of directors of a Los Angeles hospital. This resulted from a keynote speech I gave a year earlier at the graduating class of Glendale Career College. Following that speech, I was approached by the chief executive officer of the hospital, who was in attendance, and asked me if I would be interested in joining the hospital board, as they were looking for a business person to serve on the board and work with the chief financial officer. After learning more about the opportunity, I accepted and helped manage the $21 million annual budget for the hospital. So after I left CPK, at the very next hospital board meeting, it was announced that the contract for the same chief executive officer would not be renewed. And the board asked if I would take the position as an interim CEO. I was honored, accepted, and put systems and processes in place. In addition, I soon negotiated a purchase of a $6 million medical building next door, and I coordinated meetings with architects and doctors regarding the building of a new $23 million hospital as a result of FEMA's contribution from the damage to the current hospital from the Northridge earthquake. Probably remember it. Within a few months, I impressed the doctors at the hospital to the extent that they approached me and asked for my approval for them to write a letter to the board recommending me as the permanent CEO. I expressed my appreciation and gave my approval. But to my shocking surprise, the board turned down the doctor's recommendation on the basis that I had no medical background. The heads of Cedars-Sinai and Kaiser Permanente hospitals in the area were impressed with what I had accomplished and asked me to stay in the medical industry. But I told them I had to move on, as I did not have a resume to build up for the medical industry. Once again, I had to demonstrate resilience and create a new vision. Within a few months, I was offered the position of officer and vice president of franchising for Gloria Jean's Coffees. I accepted, moved to Northern California, and immediately began to clean up the contingent liability of over $1 million from the company previously guaranteeing the franchisee leases in all mall locations in the United States. In addition, I sold country development agreements for Turkey, the Philippines, Indonesia, Singapore, and Malaysia, worth several $million. Then suddenly, new buyers bought the company, remained in their Southern California office. This resulted in loss of confidence by the executive team in Northern California, and some began to leave the company as communication was minimal. Then one day an email was sent stating that expenses needed to be kept to a minimum. There was no follow-up discussion. Soon after, I got a call from our international operations manager stating that the first Gloria Jean's Coffee store is scheduled to open in Kuala Lumpur by the Petronas Twin Towers, at that time the tallest building in the world. He felt it was important that we have an executive at the grand opening, and he asked me to attend. I had an expense budget, so I went to the grand opening, gave a speech, as did the country developer I did the deal with, and the head of tourism for Malaysia, the third most powerful person in the country. In addition, I promoted Gloria Jean's Coffees in an interview with CSNBC TV. The show was called The Squawk Box. When I returned from my trip, I was relieved of my duties because I attended the grand opening. This was like my CPK experience, where I generated excellent financial results, but I was still removed from my position. So once again, I had to pivot, create a new vision, show resiliency, along with maintaining a positive attitude. At this point, I decided to finally start my own business. So I put together a business plan for a coffee concept called Café Danton, a French-style coffee concept I planned to eventually franchise across the country. I found a prime location on the main street in Santa Cruz, California. And just as I was ready to execute the lease agreement, the world changed dramatically. The 9/11 attack on the Twin Towers in New York made me stop signing the lease and shelve my concept. Another example where I had to be resilient with a positive attitude. Within a few months, I ended up negotiating a senior executive position with the Cannery Road Company in Monterey, California. There I enjoyed much success, and eventually I was promoted to the position of Chief Operating Officer. It was here that I effectively used networking by accepting an offer to join the board of the Monterey Peninsula Chamber of Commerce. By the second year of my 4-year term, I was asked to chair the board. In addition, I chaired the Government Affairs Committee, where I scheduled a meeting in Sacramento to meet with our district state senator and discuss key issues applicable to our district. So let's bring this all together. Resilience keeps you standing when life pushes you down. Vision keeps you moving when the road isn't clear. Networking connects you to others who lift you higher. And attitude determines how far you'll go. Thriving isn't about luck or timing. It's about discipline, mindset, and daily choices. When you cultivate these 4 keys, you will not only lead with strength, you'll live with purpose. So as I walk out of here today, I challenge you. Be resilient in the face of setbacks. Hold fast to your vision. Build meaningful connections. And guard your attitude, because it'll shape your destiny. Finally, I want to read a quote from Charles Swindoll on attitude. I believe in every single word. Quote, "The longer I live, the more I realize the impact of attitude on life. Attitude to me is more important than facts. It's more important than the past, than education, than money, than circumstances, than failures, than successes, than what others people think, say, or do. It is more important than appearance, giftedness, or skill. It will make or break a company, a church, a home. The remarkable thing is, we have a choice every day regarding the attitude we will embrace for that day. The only thing we can do is play on the one string we have, and that is our attitude. I am convinced that life is 10% what happens to me and 90% how I react to it. And so it is with you. We are in charge of our attitudes." End of quote. I challenge each of you, find the real you. Thank you.